the classes. Classes are used to organize the code or to group functions and variables. We will talk about that later in the video. We are going to start by writing class simply outside the int main function, and then we will name it. So we are doing classes for the students. So we've made this is the class. We can write class, and now what we are going to do is we are going to make variables. These variables are also known as attributes. So we are going to write string name student, and as you can see, we've made this class, so we have this simple structure of class. Now we are going to write its attributes. Its attributes will be its characteristics, you can see. So student has name. We are going to make string name. Student has course name. So student can be doing computer science, student could be doing software engineering, etc, etc. Now we are going to type int student ID. So you can make different variables which will be its characteristics. If you are doing regarding the student, you can have name, course name, student ID, or any other that you can think, but we are just going to talk about these three mainly. If we were doing, let's say, teacher can have different. Teacher can have name, teacher can have teaching subject, teacher can have basically different characteristics. You can make this class can be laptop, and laptop can have an object such as Samsung laptop, Acer laptop, etc. So now we are going to go down here in the int main function, and now we are going to make an object. So in a total, we often call it classes and object. Classes and objects. This is the class that we have already done it, and now we are going to make an object. So we are going to simply write the name of our class, which is student. So we can write student, and then we are going to name the object now. So we can have student1 and simply put semicolon at the end of it. So this is our object. That is our class, and that is our object. Now we can assign these string course name and student ID. However, it's not going to work. So when we are going to assign in the int main function, what we are going to do is we are going to take its name. So we are going to take an object's name, which is this one, and this is our class name. So we are going to take our object's name, student1, and simply we are going to put dot at the end. It should show name, course name, and student. Right now, as you can see, it does not show. There are errors. That's because we have not done the access modifiers. Access modifiers are basically there are three access modifiers, which basically means which define your access to these variables. So we can have the default access modifier is private, which basically means these variables string course name, int cannot be accessed from outside. So whether it's inherited class, inheritance, or whether it's int main, it cannot be accessed. So we can simply, in order to assign, we type private and then we put 2 comma at the end. Now this will still not work. If we were to run it, student1, and it still does not work, because that's what the default access modifier is. Whoa. And then there's a protected modifier. So you can simply type protected, and this modifier is basically used to access the class. With this access modifier is used to access the class from the inherited class. So you can inherit class as well. Right now we have student. We can also inherit this class into another class. That's something that we are going to talk about later. So what we want to do is we want to do the public. So we want to access our variables, which is string and then int, from the int main. So we are going to write public. This is our access modifier. And now what we see is we will write student1, put the dot in, and what we can see is we have name, course name, and student ID, and they are coming up. So we are going to first of all assign student name. We will type on student name and simply just assign the way we assign our string. So we can type Tom, and then we will assign student1 course name, which will be computer science, and then we will assign student ID, which we can do 1 2 3 4 5. So now we have second student, and this is object. So we have second object for second student, and now we can simply copy this, paste it here, change this to 2, and we can simply change name of this to So now as you can see, we have two different objects. So we have student1 here, and then we have student2. We didn't need to make all the other variables and another class for another object. So we have just one class, and then we are managing this thing. We don't need to make other variables or other class. We just have two objects. We will try running it, and what we get is we get two different students. We can just simply put cout and L. This is just to put the space between them. So right now we get first student and we get a second student. So this is how the classes are used. So you can group up the functions as well. Right now we've just talked about the basics of classes, in which basically we've talked about how can you make the class, what is access modifier, and then we've made one object, and then we've just shown you, and we've just made two objects to show you how do they work. And you can go for third one as well. So now we are going to make the third object with different details. So that's how you can sum up, so that's how you can group and organize your code. And then we have different code. So right now you can see we have three different students. There's one object that we have here, which is first student. This is the second student, and then this is the third student that we have. And if we were to output the details, we get all three different students. So you see, we didn't need to make other variables, we didn't need to make other classes. The only thing you need to remember, when you make a class, you'll give it a name. You can name it anything, and then here you name the class. This is your class name, and then this is going to be object. Object could be something like, if there are laptops, so if the class is laptop, the object could be Samsung, Acer, or all the other different computer brands, laptop brands. If you have car is your class, and then the brand could be, then you can have different brands, Fiat and Audis and BMWs, etc. The main purpose of class and object is to basically sum up the, so you can look at the class as if it's a category, and then there are different things in the specific category. So you can have a car. If your class is car, you can have Audi, BMW, and etc, etc. I hope you understood this. So today we are going to talk about methods and constructors. Methods and constructors both are function, but there's a difference between them that we are going to talk about today, and we will show you how to use them. So this was the output that we were getting in the last video that we've done. If you haven't done, I will link it and you can go and check. This was the output, and that's all the code that we had. So right now we are going to make a function that will be a method. So we will start by making one function, and we are going to remove all of this detail that we have. So we have 3 users detail. We will take all of this, we will delete it, and now we have a simple code here. What we are going to do is we are going to simply go inside this class that we've done, and we will write void just like we normally do. We will write void. We are making function that is going to show us detail. So right now you see here we have cout, student name, course name, student ID. So simply we could just call a function and it will show all of these names. We will write this details. So we will name it as a details, then simply put brackets, parentheses, and then brackets. So this is our method or function. You can simply copy paste these details inside them. In fact, what we are going to do is we are going to do something interesting first. So we will make them comment initially. We will come to this later. We will just try cout blah blah. In fact, these are details. And then, so right now you see that there's nothing that we have. There's no function. If we were to run this thing, it's not going to show us anything because there's no output. We are going to do is we are going to call this function details parentheses, and that's it. In fact, we would have to write student1. So we will write the name of our object, and then we are going to call our function, and we will run it to see what do we get. Details. So then we are going to run our function, and what we get is we get the details. So we are going to leave this for later part because we do not have these details. We do not have name, course name, student name. For them, what we are going to do is we are going to do second function, which is called constructor. You can also call it a special function that automatically works. So normally you need to call this function. With that function, you don't need to call it. It will automatically take the details. So we are going to make that. We are going to go up and we will name this function. We are not going to write void. We are simply naming this function as a class. So we have class name, we have a name student for our class. We are going to write student exactly same with the same alphabet. So right now we have a student which is exactly same as our the name of our class. Now we are going to put parentheses and then 2 brackets, curly brackets, you can call it. And inside this function we will write, we are going to give it a parameters that we want to take details. So right now we are taking 3 details. We will add one more, float marks. So these are going to be the marks of our student. So we need four inputs right now. Normally we need to assign it separately here. We wouldn't need to assign them later on. we can make them comment right now. So right now you see we need four different variables to store these details. So we will make string, we are going to name it s name. So basically it means, in fact we are going to make it c name, so it means constructor name. Then we are going to write another string, we are going to write c course name. Then we are going to make another parameter integer c student id. Then we are going to make another one float c marks, and this is our constructor, or you can call it special function. So right now we have four these details that we have here. So anytime that we will run this program, what this is going to do, wherever we call this object, we will have to write these details, otherwise it's not going to work. So right now you see this is already coming out as an error, because it's not going to work unless we type these ones inside in the int main. So right now we are going to assign them to these values, because we cannot just simply straight away write them here and expect to get the details. We will have to basically make other variables and then assign these variable to these ones. So our name, which is this variable, will be what we get for c name. Our course name will be what we get for c course name. Then we have student id will be what we get for c student id, and then we will have a marks, which will be equal to c marks. So right now we get all these three details. So first of all, what we need to do is, in order to run this, we need to make two parentheses here. So normally we make an object, or we make a, when we try to run a class, we just simply we will give it a name. But this time we will give it a name, but then we will also put parentheses, these two brackets, and in between these brackets what we're going to do is we are going to put values of these three. So normally we were signed, as we've done before, we were signed separately like this, and there was a long code. But this time we are going to show you different methods. We will have Tom first, then we have course name, which is going to be computer science. And then we are going to have student id, which will be, we can just type 1 2 3 4 5, and then ultimately we are going to have c marks. So we are going to type the marks of the student, which could be, let's say, 50, and we are going to remove this. So right now if we run it, so we've done it wrong, it was a student id, that's fine. So now we've run, everything's working, that's fine. Now we are going to output this detail by actually calling the function, the method that we've made early on. We will remove this line, simply remove this line, make them code, and we will remove this one as well. So now we can simply write name, because the values, it already gets the value, assigns it to the name, and then we can simply write the name. We didn't have to go through all this once again, because we already got the values through the constructor. So now we can output, and we will see, we will get three values because we don't have. We will run this. Oh yeah, we did not call the function. in fact. So we will write student name, which is the name of our object, then details, simply call it a function, and that's it. So all that long code that we've done before, it just small bit left, just 2 lines in the int main, and they will work for the one. We're going to type cout. Run this program, and what we get is we get the value, 3 different values. We can make another program that we another details for the students. This will be called student2. This can have a name of Kara. Let's say it studies political science, and it gets the marks 8, and it has ID of 6789393. So we will output this to see if it works. It does work. Or we can also go cout and L just to create a space. So now you can see we get 2 different details. Oh, that's because we have not changed the function. Now you can see we get 2 different details here. So now we are going to make another function which will be called average. So what we are going to do is we are going to take the marks of our student and then calculate average using the if statement within our method or function. So we are going to go inside the class that we have here. We are going to say void average. So we are going to give it a name of average, parentheses and brackets. And here we are going to write if statements. So if parentheses, and if our marks, we don't need to go through this. We don't need to put any parameters here because, as I said earlier, we already get details in our main constructor. So this is our constructor, and this is our method that you have. This is method of function. So if marks are less than 40, then it is going to fail you. So it's going to say you it can in fact say, so you will say the name and then it will say message is failed. So no matter what student, if we have the first Tom student getting failed, it will say Tom failed, and if we have Kiara getting failed, it will tell that as well. Then we are going to write else if marks are greater than or equal to in fact greater than 40 and marks are less than or equal to 70. This basically means as long as marks are between 40 and 70, then perform this else if statement, which is going to be you passed cout name cout you is passed, then simply enter. And then last one that we are going to do is we're going to make another else. We can make else as well because there's no other condition, as long as if it's less than 40 it's failed, and if it's more than 40 and in between this it's passed, and there's no other statement that we can have. Basically we are going to get higher number at the end of the in the else statement, but we are going to make else if, which is going to be marks are more than 70. So if marks are more than 70, then it's going to copy paste this. It's going to say you is we are going to basically write is a topper. So now we have 50 and 80. Hopefully we'll get topper for this, because this is the statement that applies to this. And then for the term one, we are going to get 50, so we are going to get the middle one. We will run this, and what we get is we did not call the function, in fact. So we are going to call the function student1 average, then student2 average, run this program, and then what we get is it's as you can see, we've got the details, but they are not clear. It says Tom's passed, because even though it's under this, that's because we did not put space here. Number two, we didn't need this C out. We will put this C out here. Oh, we will run this program, and what are we going to get is we got Tom, computer science, student ID, then score, and then it says it's passed because it's 50. And for the second one, Kiara is a topper because she's got 80. Now we are going to change the numbers. We are going to put 20 for this one, and then we are going to put 60 for this one. Run the program, and what we're going to get is we get Tom is failed because it's called as 20, and then Kiara is passed. It's got 40. She's got 60. So that's how you can use if statements within the methods, and you can use normal methods as well, like this one. And you can also use the constructor, which is a special function. You can also perform certain outputs with the inside this one as well. You can also perform if statements inside this one as well. So these can be used for multiple purposes. We are going to talk about the encapsulation. Encapsulation is used to hide the sensitive information from the users, or from being accessed from the int main function. So right now we have a very basic code. We have a access modifier, which is public. We have three names. We have a class, which is Instagram page. We have three names, which is name, followers, and then posts. Posts mean basically how many posts are there on the page. And then we have a constructor, which basically gets a string from a user and then assigns it to the name, this main string. And then we have a function to output our main values, which are basically name, followers, and posts. So right now what we're doing is we are making an object here. So we've given it a name of flowers. So we have an Instagram page that has a name of flowers, that has a name of rose, but we've named it a flowers in the program. So here what it does is it assigns rose name to the main name. So it means the output's going to be name for the first one. The second one we assign it to 100, and third one we assign it to 30. So if we were to run this, as you can see, we get these details, but in reality we normally don't do that. So for example, users cannot come to your Instagram page and simply assign 100 to your followers or assign 30 to your posts. What they have to do is they have to either follow you or unfollow you. So you don't basically give them access to manipulate data or to manipulate the amount of users you have on your page. In reality, we wouldn't have an Instagram page where users can come and simply assign it to 100, 200, or 1000. They will have to either subscribe, follow to us, or unfollow us. So we are going to do that right now. First of all, we are going to make private access modifier, because this is you can call it like a pillar of encapsulation. You always use private access modifier in order to encapsulate the code that you have. So right now we are going to copy just one just one variable and paste it into the folder. So right now you'll get here error very soon because this int main cannot be now accessed from the int main. If so you see is a private member of Instagram page, so this cannot be right now accessed by user by the int main function. So how are we going to do that? We are going to use inside, we are going to write another void function. So in fact this will go here, this will be called void set follow, in fact void follow, and then parentheses, and in these parentheses what we're going to do is we're going to say follow plus plus. So basically what it means is when you will call this function, you basically mean you followed once. You can call it once or twice or thrice as well. And then we are going to make unfollow parentheses and then function curly brackets, and here we are going to say unfollow follow. So we are going to have followers and then minus, but if we have a followers that are equal to 0, it will go down as well. So we are going to make if statements. So followers, as long as followers are more than 0, only then do minus, because otherwise if it was to minus from 0 to, if it was to minus 1 from 0, it will go minus 1. That's something we don't want because followers don't really have that. So right now we cannot manipulate this, we cannot basically invoke this, we cannot assign any value to our followers, to our int followers variable. So what we're going to do is we are going to call this function. So we have the posts that are assigned to 30. We're going to now call this function, which will be follow, which will be flowers, and then we are going to type follow. So now this simply basically means we'll follow the page. So right now you can see we've assigned this follower to 0, and we've got one follow because we've invoked the function once. We can do it twice, and what we get, let's see, we get 2 followers, and then we can unfollow as well. So we can simply call it unfollow, and then it will unfollow. Followers unfollow. Oh, we don't have capital F. So if we were to unfollow, and then we get 1. So that's how basically we are encapsulating these values. We are hiding the important bit from our user from manipulating our data and changing the data. So we can only give them certain functions, or you can call it less, for instance certain buttons to perform certain action. That's it. It cannot go beyond that. In this video we are going to talk about the abstraction. So what does abstraction mean? Abstraction means in the program that users will be only able to see the important details and sensitive data will be hidden, and they will not be able to access. For example, if you were to go on to Instagram, let's say, and you were to follow someone, you will just click on follow button and you don't need to know the logic behind it. And that's exactly what the abstraction is. It will hide the logical aspect of program, and they will only show the bit that is important, the most important for the users. So we are going to start it. We've got one class that's, we'll just in fact write Instagram. So we've got now one class which is called Instagram, and then we've got access modifier which is set to public. In order to use abstract class, we must use one function which will be pure virtual function. So we are going to first of all write virtual and then void, and then write function which then we name function which we are going to name it as details, let's say, and then you are going to put parentheses and it will be equal to 0. This 0 means that should be overwritten in the next class. So we will try to access this class, right? We will try to make Instagram object. We will name it as a cars. We will put parentheses and then try cars, which was details, and it's not going to work. If we will try running it, what we are going to get is it's going to say that got Instagram, in fact. So we will run once again, and as you can see, it's abstract class right now, so we cannot access it straight away. What we need to do is we need to drive it to the next class. So we need to get the child class. That's going to be, we will first type class, we will name it as a cars. So we'll remove this, we'll name it as a cars. Then we need to make this class as a child class of this main class. So what we need to do is we will put class cars and then public, which is access modifier of this class, and then we are going to write name of our main class, which is our Instagram, and then we can put, so now we have our child class. So we can just put our child class of Instagram class. So this class is a child class of this one. Now what we need to do is we need to override this function and we can access this function right there. We will try doing that. So what do we get? Instagram, that's right. So we will write public because it's access modifier, and then we are going to override the function. So this time we are only going to put void details, exactly this name, details, parentheses, and then we maybe type cout this is details. Now if we will try to call this class, it is going to work. So we will try calling it class cars Audi, let's say. And if we were to run it, what we see is we do get details, so it does run. So that's how the abstract class works. So in abstract you have the main class that is made to be driven to different classes, and then you can access those different classes. So you don't go into the main class, and this is often used for the security purposes within code. Today we are going to talk about the inheritance. Inheritance means that you can basically use a set of functions or characteristics from the main class to the next class. So right now what we have is, this is the main class. This can be called, let's say, parent class. So that's our main class, in which we have, basically it's a car class. We have gear 1, gear 2, 3, 4 and reverse gear. And then we can simply, if we were to assign this class, we will write cars, name of this class, then we will assign it to first car, and then first car gear 4, let's say, and what we're going to get is the output cout gear 4. Now what we need to do is we need to inherit this function. So let's suppose our car does all this but does something extra as well. Maybe it has void gear 5. Some cars don't have gear 5. So what we're going to write is, we are going to make another class. Let's call it good cars. Then we are going to write it public, because we are getting all this functional, we are inheriting all this functionality from the public main accessor modifier from the cars. So we are going to write public, and then we are going to write cars. Then simply make curly brackets and make a class. So right now, if I was to get rid of this code, and if I was to say good cars, then assign it to the first car and write first car gear 4. So right now you see we've got nothing in there, everything's in this one. So we have something extra and we've got nothing in there, and let's run this just to see. So right now you can see we do get the functionality from the main class. So this class is a child class, so child class. So right now we are going to do something extra as well. If we are going to write public, because we want to access this function, and we're going to write gear 5 parentheses cout gear 5. So if I want to now access gear 5, I can get this one as well. So basically I can inherit all of this functionality from the main class as well as this one. So basically I can use that and this together, and if I was to only use this class, it's not going to show me gear 5. Let's try this one. So we are going to remove good cars, and let's see if we can get gear 5. And we don't, because no member is named. Basically it cannot find gear 5 because this function will only work in this class, but those can work in this one as well.